Okay everybody, this is mooneydashcam. If you enjoy these videos, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. I also have an Instagram, at mooneydashcam. I'm posting there daily, so check that out. Alright, let's get into it. So today, we're in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. We were talking about Sammy the Bull Gravano. I'm sure many of you have been waiting for this video from me. Well, here it is. Alright, his life in the mob and his life in general has there's so much info there out on him that I decided to shave it down just to his 19 murders that are more well known. I'm sure there's more murders that he wasn't caught on and all stuff like that. But yeah, I'm narrowing down to just his murders, which alone is a lot of info to put out there. So, first, he got his name the Bull when he was 10 or so. A group of bullies tried to steal his bike, and he found them, and he fought them all. And there were a few mobsters sitting outside in a cafe, and they saw him, and they said he fought like a bull, and it stuck. Clearly, his name's Sammy the Bull. Just a little bit of info, background on him. He was pretty much a mob hitman. He did a lot of other stuff, but that's kind of what he was. At the end of his mob career, he was John Gotti's underboss. And yeah, as far as everyone knows, he has 19 murders. There's probably more than that, but... Alright, so his first kill was in 1970. He killed Joe Colucci, whose wife was sleeping with Tommy Spiro, who's more commonly known as Shorty Spiro, who was Sammy's original boss. So Shorty Spiro's nephew was sleeping with Joe Colucci's wife. Joe Colucci found out about it and threatened to kill both the Spiros, the uncle and the nephew, and Sammy, since they were so close. And Sammy eventually calmed him down a little bit, Joe Colucci, and got on his good side long enough to shoot him in the back of the head from the back seat after a night of drinking. So that was his first kill in 1970, and that was pretty much to prove himself as someone who could do this kind of stuff. Speed bumps are weird out here. Alright, so his second murder, which I'm sure wasn't actually his second murder, was in 1977, 7 years later. A guy named Alan Kaiser. He was shot dead by Sammy and Louis Molito, who was Sammy's right-hand man at the time, at 16 years old. It was a case of mistaken identity. They were looking for a guy named Aldo Candido, a man who robbed one of Sammy's nightclubs, injuring Sammy in the process. And he vowed to get his revenge on him. Sammy, to this day, does not talk about this murder in his books or anything, despite talking freely about all his other murders. Moving on to the next one, in 1978, he killed I couldn't find the name, so don't take this the wrong way, but a nameless biker who tried to ransack one of Sammy's nightclubs, even went to Paul Castellano later to get permission to wipe out the whole gang, and he shot the leader, but he survived. Also carried out with Louis Molito. You always count on some construction around here. Alright, so the next one is Nikki Sabetta. Sammy's wife, Deborah, is her brother. Nick had a bad cocaine problem. He was using Sammy's name to borrow money from loan sharks, which put Nikki in hot water with the mafia. Sammy gave him several warnings. Of course, doesn't want to kill his wife's brother. Then Nikki went to the police to have a local enemy arrested, and also insulted the daughter of a Gambino captain. So Sammy reluctantly killed Nikki, and he kept it a secret from the family until he cooperated later on, which we all know that he cooperated. Also, there's rumors floating around that Nikki knew that Sammy was gay and was threatening to out him. These are just rumors, but this is what I heard. Alright, we're turning here. Now we're going to be pulling up on this building, 2937 86th Street. This used to be the Plaza Suite right here. It was a discotheque that Sammy owned. We'll be getting into what went on here soon enough. Alright, there's one or two more murders before we get to what went on here. But we'll continue on and go by nice and slow. now, what is it now? It's like a school of some sort now, which is always odd to know. There's some shady stuff going on there. Alright, so in 1980, Tommy Spiro, Shorty Spiro's nephew, which was involved in the last, one of the last murders, when Sammy left Tommy Spiro's crew for the Gambinos, they had beef, and Sammy killed him for it. Pretty simple. A lot of the stories go like this. And then John Favreau, which whoever is into any type of mafia info knows that he's the guy who accidentally ran over John Gotti's kid at a block party, and it's said that Sammy killed him. We don't really know. I don't think the body was ever really found. And after that, John Simone. Sammy had Louis Molito convince him to take him for a drive with them down a back road in Staten Island. And Simone didn't even put up a fight. He knew what was happening. He only asked if he could take his shoes off before they killed him. Kind of weird, but they said they both respected him for dying with dignity. Which is, pretty funny. Not funny, you know what I'm saying here. Now the next one was in 1982. Frank Fiala, a drug trafficker, in the process of buying the Plaza Suite, the place that we just passed. Oh, I got T-boned here. So he's in the process of buying that place for way more money than it was actually worth. He put a $100,000 down payment, and then he started to try and boss people around in the club like he already owned it, which he didn't. He just put a down payment. Sammy confronted him, and Frank pulls out an Uzi, aiming it at Sammy. So Sammy goes, whoa, whoa, calms everything down, and then leaves and puts together a hit crew, including Molito and Michael DeBat, another one of his partners, and they ambush him outside the club that night. Sammy walks up and distracts him. Molito shoots him in the head, and then when he falls down, it shoots him once in each of his eyeballs to send a message. And then moving on to 1985, the Paul Castellano and Tommy Bellotti hit. It's very, very famous. I have a video on that. It's one of my more recent videos. How John Gotti killed Paul Castellano. Moving on to the next one. Nick Mormondo, known as Nicky Cowboy. He was kicked out of Sammy's crew, tried to start his own, and tried to recruit some of Sammy's crew members into his own crew. And then Sammy had old man Joe Peruta kill him. Sammy was in the car that was behind them while he killed him, and they dumped him in a vacant lot. Also, just some side notes. At the time Sammy cooperated with the government, he was the highest member of the 5 families to ever cooperate. He got John Gotti and Frank Locascio sentenced to life without parole, without possibility of parole, and a $250,000 fine. I have to throw that in there. Because Sammy's story does include his involvement with the government, as we all know. Alright, so in 1998, remember me talking about Louis Molito, how he's his right-hand man? He kills him. Of course, that's how it goes in the mafia. Sammy passed up Louis as the captain of Sammy's old crew for a guy named Lou Villario, leaving Sammy's crew, later rejoining Lou Villario's crew, but continually complaining about Sammy in the crew, which ended up getting he ended up getting called for a meeting at Lou Villario's social club, and the people who were there were Gene Gotti, John Carniglia, Lou Villario, Arnold Squattieri, and Sammy. They asked him to go get some coffee, so he gets in the place, like not to run out of the place and get coffee. There was a coffee machine in there. As Louis sipped his espresso, John Carniglia snuck behind him and shot him in the head. They loaded him in a car and dumped him, never to be found. I don't know if I mentioned before, but yeah, I did mention we're shooting through Bensonhurst right now. Pretty much the hometown, not pretty much, was the hometown of Sammy. I couldn't find his exact home address. I could find a picture of the house, but I couldn't find the exact home address. So far we passed by Plaza Suite, one of the clubs that Sammy part owned, and now we're going to another one of his clubs that I'll mention. We passed up, I'm going in chronological order of when the murders took place, but we passed up one, I'll tell the story when we're there, of at Tally's Restaurant and Lounge at 2605 18th Avenue. We will be there according to my GPS. It's 1 mile away. So, moving on to the next one, Francisco Oliveri. He beat a Maid Gambino member to death. So Gotti ordered his death, gave the job to Sammy. Sammy brought Robert Pasaccia, and he waited in the car while Robert shot Oliveri on May 3rd, 1988. Moving on to the next one. There's so many murders, it's crazy that you could just move on to the next and next and next. Willie Boy Johnson, one of Gotti's chief enforcers for 20 plus years, who cooperated against Gotti. Gotti and Sammy passed it off to a hit crew, and on August 29th, 1988, Willie Boy was shot outside of his home, heading out for work. Now, 1989, Thomas Spinelli, a 77-year-old nicknamed Tommy Sparrow, was believed to be an informant by Sammy and Gotti. Oh, hey, I was at the stop sign first, buddy. Was believed to be an informant by Sammy and Gotti, sorry. Spinelli was called for a meeting and never left. That's how it goes. 1990, Eddie Garofalo. There's not much info to be found on this murder, but Sammy had him killed over a dispute. He was big in construction, so I don't know the exact stuff that went on there. Alright. A little bit of a traffic jam here. I wonder what it's about. Just a person stopped in the road. Okay, so we're at the last murder. Louis Gravano, he's found dead in his car on October 4th, 1990, in the parking garage under the World Trade Center after disrespecting John Gotti multiple times. Sammy wanted him killed for a long time. He tried to talk to Paul Castellano about getting a hit on him. Paul Castellano denied it because the guy was a very, very big moneymaker, big in construction. Told John Gotti that there was $1 billion worth of drywall work that he had set up for the World Trade Center, which kind of like pushed back his hit farther. And then he wasn't going to Gotti's meetings whenever he called him for a meeting because he kind of knew that he was in hot water. So, yeah, eventually they find him dead there. There's still speculation as to who killed him exactly. They don't know for sure. So the restaurant that we're going to was Tally's Restaurant and Lounge. When I looked it up, it said it's now Danza's, but I don't believe it's Danza's anymore. So we're about, I don't know, we're 0.7 miles away. Be there in 4 minutes. We get a nice little view of Bensonhurst. I'll speed this up until we get to the club. Wow, buddy.
Traffic's wild. I'll be one of these people that blocks traffic in a second.
Of course we have someone right in front. But this cafe right here, the Like Cafe, that was Tally's Restaurant and Lounge. November 2nd, 1987, Sammy had a partner, Michael DeBat, who helped in the assassination of Frank Fiala. Sammy had a partner, Michael DeBat, shot multiple times in the head and neck and left face up, pockets emptied, and jewelry taken. Sammy wanted it to look like a robbery. He was found the next morning by a bartender. There were still bullet holes in the brick wall inside, and the guy who owned this cafe would show it off. And I just looked up that this cafe is permanently closed now, probably because of COVID. Like everything else, very sad. But it's also known as a haunted place. So people have been seen sitting at tables / heading down to the basement, and then they vanish. They even brought in a ghost hunter to confirm. And there's a voice recording of someone saying Mike, and another person saying I'll kill you. Who knows if that stuff's true. If you believe that stuff, then it's haunted. But if you don't, then it's not. Alright, that's all the murders that I looked up that I could find. Hope you guys enjoyed. I will leave you guys with one message at the end of this video. Don't be a rat.